Let's take a look at the Revit user interface. We'll start up top here. First of all, with the purple R, we have what's called the application menu. And this is where we can do our common file type things, such as new and open and save and print. If I hit escape, I can cancel back out of this. We have our quick access toolbar across the top of the screen. And this is again where I can do some of those common things as new, open, and save. I can also access some tools that I use frequently, such as an align dimension and the text tool. And this is also where you can switch windows. So if you have multiple Revit windows open, you can use this button to switch between the views. Moving along here, we have our title bar, and in the title bar you can see the name of the file that I'm in and the RVT extension, which is what you have when you're working with a Revit project. Then we have the info center or the help area. So if you have any problems, you can click in this dialog box and search for any help that you might need from the online service. And then of course we have our Windows minimize, maximize, and close buttons up here as well. Most of your tools are going to be located in the ribbon. So this is the ribbon across the top of the screen. The ribbon has multiple tabs. So for example, I have an architecture tab, and that's where we will spend the bulk of our time in this class. But we might go to the annotate tab to add in some more text items, for example. If I'm doing structural information, I can use the structure tab. But again, we'll mostly stick to the architecture tab in here. And the modify tab, that's another one that we will commonly use. The good news is a lot of times Revit will automatically go to the modify tab when you need it. Back on the architecture tab, you can see each tab has several panels. The build panel, for example, is where I'm going to get a lot of my building tools. And as you can see, there's also circulation, model, etc. as well. We also have what's called the options bar right here in this gray area, and that's going to give us options for whatever it is that we're doing. For example, if I were to start the wall tool, I will get some options for where its bottom is, where its top is, how it's aligned when I'm drawing it, and so on. I'll just escape to cancel out of that. Then we have over here on the left side a couple of the most important things that we're going to work with. First of all, the properties panel or palette. And this will tell me the properties of anything that I'm doing. For example, if I start a wall, it's going to tell me the properties of that wall. If I select something, it's going to tell me the properties of that item that I just selected. And not only will it tell me about it, but I can also change its properties as well. So very powerful tool that we will use a lot. Below that we have the project browser, and the project browser has all views associated with a model, also any sheets for drawings. So if I want to switch between any views, for example, right now I am in the default 3D view, and I can see that that is bold here. Then I can double click on the view that I want to go to. So let's say I want to look at my first floor plan. Double click first floor. That's now the view that I'm working with. If I want to look at the second floor, I'll just simply double click the second floor. Now that I've opened up multiple views, you can see when I go back up to switch windows on the quick access toolbar, I've got the different views available, so I can switch between them using this button as well. Personally, I prefer to just go ahead and double click on the view that I want to go to, even if it's already been opened. But either way works fine. You can also close a view using the X in the upper right of the drawing window, and it will just take you back to the view that you were in before. Now if you close all the views, eventually it thinks you want to completely get out of the Revit project and asks you if you want to save. So I'm going to cancel to stay in this project. But again, get used to the project browser and just simply double click on something to make it the active view. I mentioned a moment ago this is our drawing window. So right now I'm in a floor plan. In this floor plan I also get little elevation indicators for my north, south, west, and east elevations. And those are some additional views that I can jump to. So if I come down to the elevations category and I want to look at the north elevation, I'll just double click on it, and there it is. And then again, I'll close that. You can also use these little triangles as shortcuts. So if I double click on this triangle, it takes me right to the north elevation again. And again, I'll just close it to go back to my floor plan. One other thing I want to mention too about this properties and this project browsers, a lot of times I see them accidentally get closed by maybe accidentally clicking on these little X buttons. If that happens to you, these guys are located under the View tab. So if you go to the View tab and then the User Interface button at the very end, this is where you can turn back on your project browser and your properties. That's important to note because if you close them, you're going to be lost without them, so you really need those. We also have inside the drawing window the navigation bar over here to the right. So this is one way that I can move around in my views, change the 3D views, pan around, zoom, etc. I also might have the option for context menus. If you right-click your mouse, you're going to get a context menu or a shortcut menu. And it's going to be different depending upon the context in which you click. So if I have something selected, for example, and then I right-click, I'm going to get some options specific to that object. And again, I'll just escape to deselect that. And down at the bottom of my screen, right under the drawing window, I have the View control bar. This lets me set the scale and the way the view looks. And then below that, we have the status bar. So this one will generally give me helpful information for what it is that I'm trying to do and what it's asking for. And then in the middle here, we have our work sets tool. This is if I'm going to have multiple people working in the same project. We won't have that situation in this class, so we won't really deal with this section. And then over here on the right are my selection toggles, and these allow me to filter down the way that I'm selecting objects on screen. So that's just a quick look at some of the main features of Revit.